now.
Hello everyone, I'm Mansi Joshi. Welcome to the ninth edition of India Inclusion Summit 2020. India Inclusion Summit is a volunteer-led initiative with a mission to make India inclusive. Every year, this has been an opportunity for the community around inclusion to come together. After 8 years of this being a physical event, this year IIS is going digital, spread across 4 different events across 3 different days. Today, I'm your host for the day one and the first event of IIS 2020 with the name Resilient Me. 2020 is a year that seemed to have escaped out of some science fiction movie, perhaps made in Hollywood. In these trying times, as we deal with lockdowns and pandemic include anxiety, the most important topic for us to focus on is our mental health and wellness. Precisely for that, this year we have planned Resilient Me as our first event on day one of IIS 2020. On this day, we have with us an amazing bunch of speakers who will drive insights on mental health, mental well-being, inspire you, and share tips on how to stay strong and resilient across all seasons of life. Stay tuned for the wide set of speakers and performance. And also don't miss what is in store for the other days. On 21st, we have two events, one in the morning and other in the evening. On 21st November in the morning, we have IIS Youth focused on young audience. And in the evening, we have celebration of inclusion dedicated to our friends with disability and the caregivers, a day filled with art, music and movies. And finally, on 28th November, we have Ability Unlimited, where we acknowledge the community around inclusion, that is the corporates, social entrepreneurs, NGOs, and others. And now, I have a special guest for you. He is our new mascot for India Inclusion Summit.
Hi.
Hello, Inclu.
Hello.
How are you?
My name is Inclu. Every name has a meaning, and Inclu is short for inclusion. Do you know what inclusion is? It's a very special word. Inclusion means when everyone is valued and accepted for who they really are. Respect for everyone from all walks of life. Just like namaste means sharing respect to everyone you meet. I dream that we live in a truly inclusive world where everyone can have fun, feel safe, and be happy. It's a big job, but if we all work together, it can come true. Will you join me in my journey of making India and the world inclusive? Come join my team and make inclusion a reality all over India and the world. You can make a big difference no matter who you are. You got it?
Thank you, Inclu. We'll look to see you around. And now it's time for us to kick off IIS 2020. And it is my pleasure to invite Nobel Peace Prize laureate Shri Kailash Satyarthi.
During a raid, anything could happen.
This boy has been missing for 7 months.
The child has been taken
To Delhi.
This is quite a dangerous area. We have been attacked there 2 times. Take the children. Those who think that slavery has been abolished, they are wrong. अभी सब लोग कोई डर रहा है? तुम लोग डर रहे हो? डरो नहीं. I have seen corruption, injured children with broken spirits. ये क्या बंदा है बेटा? My colleagues and I have freed over 80,000 children, but that is not enough. Rescue operations and raids are important, but one tiny part of the whole movement. I have one single mission of my life, that every child should be free to be a child. Free to laugh and cry, free to go to school, free to touch the sky.
तुमने क्या बताया था? तुमको क्या बनोगे घर जाके?
I have seen that change is possible. If you see any kind of abuse and exploitation of any child anywhere, break the silence.
This year's Nobel Peace Prize has gone to Indian Kailash Satyarthi.
We cannot end child labor unless we all demand it. March with me. March with me. My dear children, dear brother Firoz, and all sisters and brothers in India Inclusion Summit, I am pleased to be with you virtually. Needless to say that how important is this summit for the betterment, justice, and equity in our country or anywhere in the world. India is a home of almost 12 million children with disabilities, or what we call the special ability, kuch log kehte hain divyang, whatever name we give. But these are the children who need urgent attention and action from society and the state both. There are reports which reveal that only 1% of children with disabilities have access to education. And people like us who have been fighting in India and elsewhere in the world that the education should be inclusive education where all children whether they have some physical or mental problems, and other children can sit together, can study together, and can grow together. This is one of the most important things which we have to attain in the society. But equally important that how family and society treat our children, those who need much more attention, those who need much more adore and care and love. But more importantly, we have to keep in mind that they must have their dignity. We should have some respect for them as well. So this is the social and cultural dimension of inclusion. We have to have inclusive laws, not only the education related legislations and programs and schemes, but also in all laws we have to give equality and justice status for such children, and that requires much more additional efforts through budgetary allocations and schemes, and that has to be there. Dear friends, through such summits, you are able to raise this voice which is much more needed. We have come across many children whom we rescued from slavery and child labor and trafficking, and they had some problems, physical or mental problems. And sometimes we found that they were more badly treated than other children. And sometimes they were badly treated by their peers in the workplaces. So we have to ensure that child labor related laws have to be properly implemented. We have also come across some incidents where some young girls and boys who faced some mental issues or some physical issues, they were more vulnerable for rapes and child sexual abuses, and that requires urgent attention and action to protect such children who are more vulnerable. We also know that the COVID-19 pandemic has exposed and exacerbated all kinds of injustices and inequalities prevailing in our society, in India and elsewhere in the world. And therefore, it's a serious danger that a large number of children may not come back to their classrooms. As we know that globally, over 1 billion children, school-going children, are not in schools. They are missing out their schools. And almost half of them have no access to online education. Almost 385 million children, students, primary and secondary students, were highly depending on school feeding programs like midday meals and others globally. And they are facing serious issues. And when many of such children who are socially, economically, politically excluded, and in addition to it, those who were facing physical and mental disabilities, they have to be brought in the focus and they have to be given priority in any sort of rehabilitational programs. So, dear friends, I wish that this should not remain only a summit, but it should be a social, cultural, political movement in our country. Everybody should feel that no child is left behind. Thousands of years ago, the Vedas, rishis, sages have given us a sermon, a message or a teaching, Sangachadhum, Samvadadhum, Samvo Manansi Janatam. That means, let us walk together. No one is left behind. No one is left out. We have to create a level playing ground where everybody can walk together. Everybody should have equal opportunities. That was the message given. Let us have a chance and opportunity that everybody can speak out, everybody can talk, and everybody listens each other's voice. And equally important is that all of us think together and act together. That togetherness, that inclusion is must in any sustainable and peaceful society, any just society. Finally, let me underline here one thing, that some of our children, they are all our children in fact, if our children don't have eyesights, they definitely have bigger visions if we give them care and respect. Maybe no sight, but bigger vision to make the society a better place. They may not be having fully functioning legs or hands or other parts of the body sometimes, but their resolve is no less than anyone's resolve. And I have come across many examples that their resolve is much more deeper, much more strong than any other. And we have to respect that purity of their heart and their resolve. They should not feel vulnerable. They should not feel weaker. If one single child with disability feels abandoned, neglected, abused, weak, it's a curse on the entire society. We will make a better society by giving opportunity to every child, because they are all our children. Thank you so much.
For those of you who have joined late, I am Mansi Joshi and I'm a para athlete. Last year, I won a gold medal at Para Badminton World Championship at Basel, Switzerland in August 2019, and it changed the course of my life. On 3rd December 2019, last year on International Day for Persons with Disability, I was awarded as a national award in Delhi. In the field of sport, multiple media houses also, named me as para athlete or disabled athlete of the year. I was nominated by BBC as Indian Sportswoman of the Year alongside 4 other able-bodied athletes like Sindhu, Mary Kom, Tuti Chand, and yeah, etc. So, and just a few weeks back, Time Magazine listed me in the list of next generation leaders, and Barbie released a doll to my likeness to inspire younger girls that they can be anything. But what I want to tell you right now, that to reach to such a level, to be the best in my sport, it was not easy for me. It has been one incredible journey, and I would like to share this with everyone who's present here. 2010 was the year I graduated from University of Mumbai in electronics engineering, and I got a job at a multinational company where I started working as a software engineer. At that time, my dream was to, work for 2 to 3 years, gain experience, had then, do MBA. And with financial independence, I had those ambitions like everyone else. I had those ambitions like, I had planned out my life where I want to do an MBA, have a great job, support my parents, buy a vehicle of my own, get married, build a home, and every realistic dream and engineer dreams of in India. I was just a regular office going person. Like all of you who are attending, or many of you who are attending this session. In my company, we were a group of freshers who had joined together, and we all had developed a great bond. So, I'm basically from Mumbai, and I got my first job in Pune. So within a few months, I got my job posting in Mumbai, which is my home location. So to commute daily to work, I used to, I purchased a two-wheeler, and I would travel to office either by Mumbai local or by my father's car or my newly purchased two-wheeler. On it was just not even 1 year, that almost like within 1 year of joining, on 2nd of December 2011, on my way to work, I met with a road accident. I was hospitalized for 45 days and celebrated Christmas and New Year in the hospital itself. On Makar Sankranti, on 14th of Jan 2012, I came home minus mobility. It's so ironic that I met with an accident on 2nd of December, one day before the International Day for Person with Disability. And this year, the 2nd December, it's going to be 9 years since my injury. And I feel so proud of myself that how these 9 years have turned out to be. So when I came back home during Sankranti, everything around me had changed. Right from what food I had to how I dressed up. I still remember how I celebrated with joy when I stood up for the first time when I was in hospital, or when I started learning to walk on crutches, or I also remember my first trip to a nearby mall after I came home in a wheelchair. And initially, it was very difficult for me because people, all they did was stared at me constantly, or people would just approach me and ask me what happened to me exactly. And I really felt that, oh my God, I have getting so much of attention, so unnecessary attention. I still remember just 1 or 2 years after my injury, during my regular grocery shopping visit with my parents, one of my old teacher met me and told me that, he spoke for a long time. And then later on in the conversation, he also told me that, it was my destiny to, I think, meet with an accident, or how this injury is going to change my life. Now that I look back, I can tell my teacher that yes, it definitely changed my life. But then it was not my destiny, but because of resilience or perseverance or hard work, that actually changed the definition of my journey. Post injury, I had so many doubts and so many uncertainties regarding my future. All my previous plans went into hibernation. That what I mentioned few minutes back. All those plans went into hibernation, and the only thing that was important to me was learning to walk, learning to or to relearn everything. So learning to walk was easy, but walking every day was hard because multiple reasons. So within a few months of learning how to walk, I rejoined my work and started going to office. This, increased my confidence and gave me opportunities to interact with multiple people, right? I got an opportunity to connect with my friends, with my colleagues. And every day after office, I would take time to go out for a walk with my parents. So also, in Mumbai monsoon, all I used to do was get work from home and, work from morning to evening. In the evening, I would go out for badminton training with my brother. Badminton was a sport that was a part of my life. I still remember when I was operated upon, I had told my doctor about how much I loved playing this sport. It was how people recognized me in my school. It was how people knew me in my college or even in my office. I started learning badminton when I was a child. So my parents actually, these are the people who actually made me learn the sport. My parents wanted us children to have an all-around development, and they thought it's indulgence into arts, music, science, or especially such extracurricular activities that can develop or have an overall development of a child. I still remember how I used to go for art classes, come next to go to badminton coaching, and prepare for my extracurricular activities, which happened as CCA in the last on Saturdays. I used to participate at multiple competitions like Rangoli, elocution, dance competition, be a part of drama team, be a part of multiple sports team like basketball, volleyball. Also would participate in athletics. But then out of all these activities, badminton was the sport that I chose. All these activities, now that I remember, now that I go back, I feel that all these activities inculcated the importance of patience in me, or learning a skill, how it is important to learn a skill, importance of leadership, Out of all these activities, badminton was the sport that I used to, go for training and coaching in Anushakti Nagar in Mumbai. I made great friends and learned one of the life's most important lessons playing the sport. I am just, I just wrote down few importance or things that I've learned through sports. And I feel sports help you build character. It teaches you, to develop strategic thinking and analytical thinking. It helps you in goal setting, risk taking, and so many other essential life skills. For me, it did one more thing. It helped me change my whole perspective about life because playing sport helped me in my recovery. Sport also taught me how to be a leader and also be a team player. Perseverance, discipline, commitment, handling pressure, or be responsible for self and teams are few of the qualities that I learned while playing the sport. It also taught me how to go through a win and accept a loss. So post injury, I used to play badminton for my own enjoyment. I did not realize that I am actually learning so many other things. It made me learn how to balance better or walk faster, trust my prosthetic leg, and carry on with my daily activities. I felt much more confident after each hour of play, which translated into the above. And this is because of the sport. This newfound confidence that I learned through sport, I started participating in various intra-company badminton competition. I still remember, this 2011, I had played one tournament and I had won a gold. This was pre-accident thing. And after my accident, I again participated in the same tournament, where my colleagues encouraged me that let's just you come and you just have fun. I went with my brother and sister in a rickshaw all the way to like travel for 20-25 kilometers and went to the badminton court. And then I came home with a gold medal. This was like a turning point for me. It increased, it skyrocketed my confidence level. There, after that, I have kept on participating at multiple local corporate level tournaments in Mumbai. That there I would be the only person with disability competing against able-bodied people. In some tournaments, I could not even qualify group round. All I used to get was a consolation prize, appreciating my spirit in competition. I personally never liked them. Who requires a consolation? Give me a gold or a silver, or just allow me to go home. I'll work harder and come back. But badminton had become a part of my life, knowingly or unknowingly. So this is when I keep on participating multiple tournaments. In one of the tournament, in another corporate tournament, in 2014, I won a medal and again posted pictures on my social media. So this is what 3 years after my injury, and I had made a lot of friends on Facebook. One of my friend Neeraj George, he encouraged me to participate in para badminton tournament, which is played exclusively by people with disability. And Dheeraj George is also going to be the part of IIS 2020 on 21st of November. He is also hosting, so please do not forget and tune into his session. So since December 2014, I've played multiple badminton tournaments in India as well as around the world. My first national level tournament uh, fetched me a silver medal against Arjuna awardee and multiple times world champion. My first international tournament was in Mallorca in Spain. Such a beautiful country, such a beautiful city. And there, for the first time, I met different people with disabilities internationally who had same love for badminton as me and played the sport with so much of passion that I just fell in love with the sport. So initially, as I said, I was just playing it for fun. And then when I meet multiple people with disability having the love for the same sport, I just got a magnetic attraction towards the sport. And I just wanted to play with these most amazing para badminton players. I also wanted to become the most amazing para badminton player. So at that time, I was still working full time. And I got selected at World Championship. This is my World Championship is my second international tournament, which was going to be held at Stoke Mandeville which is also in England, which is the birthplace of modern day Paralympic Games. Around that time, I was also leading a part of a project, and our code was supposed to get on production. And taking a long leave to participate for such tournaments was a huge challenge. But then my friends, we just figured something out. But while I was still preparing for World Championship, what in all my office, what I used to do was I would take some time between lunch break or tea breaks, or when my friends would go out for sutta breaks, I would just go into the parking lot and do some shadow practice. Every morning, I would get up at 4:30 and would go for training with my yoga teacher. Then do wall practice, or just some normal training activities. Then I would go to office, and then in the evening after coming back from office, I would go to play badminton. This routine I was carrying all for almost a month, and it made me appreciate myself so much because it was physically and mentally draining. And somehow, I mean, after the training got over, we went for World Championship, and in that tournament, I won a silver medal with Rakesh Bhaiya in September 2015, and this is my first medal at World Championship. I had such appreciation after the event for the sport that I decided that let me quit my job and find opportunities in the sport. But then I had to again rejoin workforce because I ran out of savings, as sports requires so much of funds to play and participate. But then I left my job again. I mean, I was working full time at that time in a bank in Ahmedabad now. And in 2016, I won a bronze medal at Asian Championship in Beijing, China. I won bronze medal at World Championship in 2017. And this is when I decided that now I want to pursue the sport full time and I'll figure something out. And I moved to Gopichand Academy in Hyderabad in 2018. There, I was training full time, and also I was playing. I was just enjoying. And my sponsors were the one who was supporting me and taking care of all the expenses related to travel, training, and prosthetics. In 2018, that year, I won a bronze medal at Asian Para Games in Jakarta in Indonesia. Para badminton now is going to be introduced for the first time at Paralympic Games, and it is a wish for every person or every para athlete to become a Paralympian. And this is what I also wanted to become, because I had sacrificed so much, and I turned my life into another direction. So in 2019 was our Paralympic qualifying year. And that year I played, more than 10 tournaments. It was like, every tournament a month. It was such an intensive travel, but my focus was always World Championships. Gopi sir, Rajendra sir, they helped me, completely concentrate on few of my areas of improvement. Rajendra sir, and Harry coach, they would spend multiple hours watching match videos of myself as well my opponent, and push me to get better. And I had a physical fitness trainer. His name was Raju Lomadal, and he worked on my strength and endurance. I still remember during World Championship, all I used to do was after finishing that hectic training, I would practice one different type of service, like flick serve, shot serve, etc. Different type of service for 30 hours every day. 30 minutes. 30 minutes every day. And during that time, like before World Championship, so before lockdown, I would put in 6 to 8 hours every day, which also included, of course, my gym sessions and strengthening sessions. All this while, I had never won a gold medal at a major championship. But in 2019, I won a gold medal at Para Badminton World Championship in women's single SL3. This tournament happened alongside able-bodied tournament, like it was in the same complex in Switzerland. So what Gopi sir was also, participating and supporting other Indian athletes like Sindhu and everyone. So Gopi sir would also, come and cheer for me or support me. He would juggle between two courts, and he made sure that, he's there for supporting me. Now, what's happening is my coaches and trainers, they understand my needs, my gameplay. They work on specific areas of improvement because we know that, we can't work on all like there are multiple areas of improvement for all athletes and we have to work on those areas. Right now, we're working on improving my movement, improving my hand skills, and also increasing my endurance levels. I'm getting more and more stronger every day. But even in this lockdown, I'm making sure that, I'm training. I know intensity is not what it was before, but I'm trying to be in touch with. We don't have any. I mean, my next tournament is going to be in March 2021, but I want to remain. I want to maintain my older fitness level as these new dates are announced, and when they are announced, I'm going to jump back again into training because what I feel is I have just arrived. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Mansi, for sharing that inspiring journey of yours. Firstly, we want to congratulate you for all the amazing things that you've done. And we were extremely pleased to see you on Time Magazine as one of the future leaders of the world. For all the work that you're doing and championing for people with disabilities, we really wish you more power. We were also very excited to see now that there is a Barbie doll in your name as part of the Shiro's family. So on that note, on behalf of everybody at the summit and from all the viewers tuning in, thank you so much for all that you've been doing, and we wish you more success in all your future endeavors. And finally, to all the viewers at the India Inclusion Summit, Diwali is around the corner, and I wanted to leave you all with a short Diwali video to kind of wish you great celebrations in the coming years.
Diwali video.
Thank you so much, and have a good rest of the summit.
अरे यार रिजल्ट करा नहीं है क्या करें रिजल्ट करा जरूर आएगा
Gotcha.
Yep, there could be a half chance run out. They need to be good. Sangakkara has to get the hit stumps. Maybe the short wicket or the short cover, whatever side the ball goes from the back.
Gotcha.
इस दिवाली सबको खुश करने वाले हैं।
Thank you all for listening to me and thank you for staying tuned in to Resilient Me Day 1 to IIS 2020. Now, we have a small quiz with 25 lucky winners will get IIS 2020 t-shirts. All you have to do to win these fabulous t-shirts is to access our link and answer this question: which Indian president was one of the speakers at India Inclusion Summit? You can do this by clicking on the link in the India Inclusion Summit website under the event video, or by scanning the QR code which is displayed on the screen. Let me repeat this once again. I want all of you to participate in this small quiz with 25 lucky correct responses will win IIS 2020 t-shirts. Please send your nominations. Please send your responses by scanning the QR code which is displayed on the screen or by clicking on the link in the India Inclusion Summit website under the event video. Do hurry. Quiz will be closing in within next few minutes. Now let me introduce our next speaker. She is a mental health ambassador, a serial entrepreneur,
we have to switch the interpreter.
winner of Nari Shakti Puraskar from Government of India and the Young Global Leader Award from the World Economic Forum. We have Neha Kirpal, co-founder in our mental health platform after this very short video.
Such an honor to be here at the India Inclusion Summit 2020, speaking to all of you virtually today. When I think about the idea of India and the concept of inclusion, you're reminded of scale, you're reminded of diversity, you're reminded of all the differences, social, economic, cultural, in a country so vast, physical illness, mental illness, there are so many things that divide us, that differentiate us. And yet here we are speaking about inclusion. What better context, what better country to be able to champion the idea of inclusion than India? Hi, I'm Neha Kirpal. I'm a mental health ambassador based in India. I run a mental health tech startup organization with Dr. Amit Malik, and I run a mental health think tank called Librum, which is based in the UK. And it's with a few global scientists. We look at designing system solutions for mental health, working with governments, working with organizations, corporates, and educational institutions. The idea is simple. For such a large, complex problem, with so many dimensions, everybody's needs are different, every user is different, everybody's story is different. How can we think about solutions and strategies and ideas that can bring it home for each one of us? I'll start with my own journey. My mental health story, my inspiration for doing what I do today. When I was 5 years old, my mother started showing signs of schizophrenia. We didn't know what schizophrenia was back in the 1980s. It was just a whole series of things that didn't make sense. To a child growing up in this country, in a community and family in urban India, we had no level of education or understanding of what these mental illnesses are. What should we do as a family? And how do we cope as children growing up in this country? I went through school, I went through college, trying to make terms with what became of our family. My brother suffered immensely. And I have to share with you today, about a month ago, my brother died by suicide. It is the most tragic thing that could have happened to our family after looking at mental health and mental illness for 3 decades. I share this with you today in the hope that there are other brothers and other sisters who can hear something in this story that might stay with you, something that might help, something that might inspire, something that might challenge, and something that you might take away that can make a difference. India has over 200 million people suffering from mental illness. And mental illness is very different from mental health. WHO says mental illness is a 1 in 4 problem. But if one person is affected, the whole family is affected. And therefore, practically, it touches on all our lives. When you look at what mental health is, a state of well-being, a state of resilience, a state of physical and mental health that induces that state of well-being. We can recognize it in its fullness, but oftentimes we are only looking at the challenges of mental illness. You look at depression, you look at anxiety disorders and more severe conditions like addictions and psychosis, and you can see the whole spectrum. If you think about all the feeder causes that lead into that, whether it is domestic abuse, domestic violence, lack of inclusion, physical disabilities, there are so many challenges that feed into the dysfunctionality and the disease of mental illnesses in this country. And yet, you look at a 95% treatment gap. India has 1/3 of the global burden of mental illness. 1/3 depression of the world sits in India. 1/3 suicide. It's the only country where the suicide rates are rising. I don't know if you know, there is a student dying by suicide every hour of every day in this country. Those are our statistics. But I'm not a statistic, and neither are you. For us, this is a matter of our life, our dreams, our sense of self, who we are. And no matter how much we run away from it, we are always a collection of all our life experiences. So if I look at myself, a combination of the genetic makeup that I have, in my family history, what are the mental health illnesses that have prevailed? If I look at my early childhood experiences, look at trauma, look at abuse, look at several of the things that so many people, particularly girls in this country, go through. And then I look at the journey after that, the journey growing up as an adult, as a woman trying to do something to overcome the challenges of mental health and mental illness in India, to try and go into business, to try and transition. I spent 10 years working in the art world. I founded and ran an international art fair, which I sold 2 years ago, to move to my life and passion in mental health. Just the ability to be able to do that. All the forces around me, it almost feels like conspired to help create that outcome. And this story of some level of experience, some strength, some hope is what I bring to you today, because I know that when I share a story, everybody has a story to share. So I would encourage and I would look to everybody here to just go inside, go way back into your lives, into your childhood, into the dreams and ambitions that you held and the traumas that you faced because of whatever, the lack of inclusion, the discrimination, the disabilities, or simply the mental handicaps that some of us go through. And ask ourselves, is it not worth trying? Is it not worth giving ourselves another chance? What can we do to nurture that sense of self? What can we do to recognize and find that inner child within us? We talk about inclusion and often we exclude ourselves, right? The sense of abandonment that some of us go through when we have been through a journey that feels full of neglect, full of abandonment, full of rejection, it becomes almost something that we embody from time to time. And I would urge that we all try and find that whisper of a subconscious voice within us, that voice that is telling us, you're worth it, you're loved, I care, we should all care. There has got to be a way for us to work through this. And so when we think about this large mental health problem, but we think about the simple needs, the simple challenges that we face when we actually go through that. I have seen depression, psychosis, suicide, and several other mental health conditions in my own family. I'm sure we all have. What do we do about it? What does it take? If you think about the 95% treatment gap in clinical terms, do we know there are less than 7,000 psychiatrists in this country? So access to organized mental health services, clinical interventions is limited. But what can we do as a community? When do services get built? When people demand them, right? If each of us could just step up and recognize the needs that we have to treat mental illness and the desire we have to nurture mental health, we might be able to put forward a demand that forces people to build the services and build the platforms that are needed to serve the mental health needs of this community. When we look at physical health and mental health, there are lots of crossovers. I'm sure we recognize when people are dealing with diabetes, people are dealing with cancer, cardiac issues, pregnancy, postpartum depression. There are lots of conditions that have a mental health overlap. And we've all been through them in some way or the other, either directly or within 1 or 2 degrees of separation. So if we can look at educating our institutions, our organizations, sensitizing communities for the need to recognize when things are going wrong, we must remember mental health is a spectrum. It is not a day or a night. It is not black or white. It's not that one day we're ill and one day we're not, right? So if we were to just say at some point or the other, because of grief, because of challenges, because of whatever it might be, we all go through certain spells of mental health to mental illness. And there are times when we can help ourselves, and a little bit of self-help, a little bit of self-nurturing, a certain routine, sleeping, eating better, all of that can help. And sometimes we need a bit more. Sometimes we need therapy and counseling, that might help. Sometimes we need medication. Some of us need support in an inpatient residential facility for some time. And then we can go on to self-support. The idea is to recognize that all of those are better than not doing anything at all. You know, we often feel, I always like to say, helplessness is not hopelessness. And often the first step is the hardest. Here's another fun fact. It takes people 4 to 5 years at the least to be able to get to their first mental health appointment. Now imagine if you break a leg or you hurt your eye and then you wait another 4 or 5 years before you get anywhere. The challenge is that people don't know where to begin, right? And my experience is you begin with just talking about it, right? You begin with recognizing what's wrong, either within yourself or with those around you. You begin by reaching out and talking more openly and asking for help. You begin with the faith that if you ask for help, help would find its way to you, right? I think that is the beginning that I can hope for. And I hope that as we look at, in our journey, both with INRR and with Librum, but particularly with the work that we are doing on the technology platform that we're building, we believe it's all about access. It's about reach, right? If there was a way that everybody across the country in any language could reach 24/7, at least a little bit of help, at least the first level of intervention that might set them off, and then they can get more help later, right? That would be a great starting point. My dream for India, as someone who has suffered the brokenness of this mental health ecosystem, as someone who did not have the education, did not have the awareness, we suffered as a family, not one generation, but 2, right? I'm 40 years old, and the last 35 years of my life have been a tragic story of mental health. And I am now trying to set out to make some difference in changing that. But it can't happen by one person. It can't happen by 10 or by 100. The easiest way to bring change is to start talking about it. The more we do that, the more we reach out, the more we reach within. And if we can change something inside of us, I guarantee you that will bring about a change bit by bit in infrastructure, in the supply, in clinical services, and in all the rehabilitation and inclusion that we need to be able to make India a truly inclusive country where those suffering from physical illness and mental illness can have a better life, can have a full life, and the right to the whole human experience. Thank you very much.
Your laws. Wish you the very best in your mission to change how India responds to mental health issues. Thank you for joining us. Isn't it staggering to hear that there is a 95% treatment gap in India for mental health issues? Our next speaker is India's foremost mental health expert, Dr. Shekhar Seshadri, a psychiatrist and professor of Department of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry in NIMHANS, Bangalore. But before that, let us have a quick look at what are we having or planning on other days at IIS 2020. मैं तो बोलवाऊंगा ना।
Greetings, my friends, on the occasion of India Inclusion Summit 2020, Resilient Me. We've had the pleasure of listening to Kailash Satyarthi ji, a pride of the country, the inspirational story of Mansi, and Neha, who I have had the privilege to meet. And my endeavor will be to try and put together the thoughts expressed by these three wonderful, inspirational human beings to set the tone for this year's Inclusion Summit. When we speak of special needs, special people, special children, particularly in this month, which is the International Month for Children, it is also the International Adoption Month. A question comes to my mind: what chances does a child with disability have to get adopted? Kailash ji spoke about the systemic responsibility and challenges that we have to meet the requirements of the vast majority of children who are excluded by virtue of the vulnerable circumstances that they come from. Mansi spoke about the challenges that occur when you are rendered disabled due to a quirk of fate. And Neha shared with us the large story and the personal narrative of mental illness as it affects thee. So the world of disability is vast. And in this context, if you were really to look at it from the perspective of child rights, there is a tendency, my friends, to look at child rights predominantly from the lens of rights violation. But that's a limited way of looking at the whole issue of child rights. What about the context of rights enablement? The right to education is one such law. Let's look at it from another perspective, and that is from the perspective of child protection risks. And here again, you will recall that both Kailash ji and Neha referred to the whole issue of abuse and exploitation as the context of mental health morbidity and as the context of experiences that children face when they come from vulnerable and difficult circumstances. But there is another angle to protection risks, and that angle is the risk of unmet developmental needs. And to close this triangle is the whole issue of inclusion and exclusion, as the case may be, an idea, a phenomena, a reality that all of us have been contending with, and a reality that the entire team which has set up this summit in its 9th year today preoccupies itself with. And then the whole wellness and mental health agenda. Going back to something that Mansi said look at the entire reality that this framework has occurred in. One, the reality of COVID-19. We must appreciate and understand, friends, that pandemics of the nature of COVID have a disproportionate impact on the most vulnerable. For people with disability, one might argue, when you speak about distancing, whether a lack of mobility, and I'm not referring just to locomotor issues, perhaps even to social mobility issues, would it actually be of their benefit? Or is it, if you go back to the whole child protection risk, the risk of unmet developmental needs? And for many of these children and individuals who have mobility issues, would this be something akin to almost like a lockdown within a lockdown, particularly with schools closed, special education centers closed? And this has also occurred in the context of the new education policy, the National Education Policy of 2020. And I must share with you that the National Education Policy as a document is a very complex document to navigate with. But there are two very striking features here, or may I say three. One is the emphasis on disability, the emphasis on education, and the emphasis on wellness and mental health. It is in this context that in the National Institute of Mental Health and Neurosciences, where I work, we have started a national initiative and integrated resource for child protection, mental health, and psychosocial care, through which we dream and hope to work with the health, education, and welfare sectors, with all stakeholders and service providers, to reach any child, every child in the spaces that she occupies and inhabits. We will thus be working with school boards, schools, teachers, childcare institutions and their staff, child welfare committees, juvenile justice boards, the judiciary at the state and national level, legal services authority, police academies, administrative academies, the district mental health program, tertiary care hospitals, in extensive programs of capacity building and training, so that the gap that Neha referred to and the enormous challenge of numbers that Kailashji referred to, and a very critical issue that Mansi referred to when she used two words, resilience and uncertainty. What COVID has done is it has unmasked in all of us a vulnerability known as intolerance of uncertainty. And part of the whole inclusion paradigm is how we ensure that we provide a sense of predictability in a scenario where these children's lives, individuals' lives who have some form of disability, is characterized by loss of structure, loss of routine, loss of predictability, loss of educational opportunities, loss of social spaces, loss of peer interaction, and loss of play. And this is where the principles of anthroposophy need to be embraced by all service providers to really meet the inclusion needs, to create a resilient me. If children cannot go out into the world, how do you bring the world back into families, into childcare institutions? This is the spirit and the message that India Inclusion Summit 2020 has for all of us, to build a resilient me, resilient children, resilient people, creating a solid, supportive scaffolding and framework for all the issues and challenges that the illustrious people I've had the privilege of sharing this platform today with, Kailashji, Mansiji, and Nehaji. Good day, my friends. Let's march onwards towards creating these opportunities. And we at the National Institute are at your service, and we are mandated to provide all assistance for stakeholders and service providers to meet the challenge and the gap that has already been referred to. Good day.
Thank you, Shekhar, for giving a holistic picture on what we need to do about or what we need to know about mental health. Now, I want to share with you a story that my father used to tell me as a child, which later became a very important advice that I've ever got. And this is the story of Bundelkhand. It is like an imaginary place, right? I mean, this is what he told me, an imaginary place that he wanted me to know. There was one prince, an arrogant prince in a very rich kingdom. At that time, the prince at that time had gone out for hunting within his own kingdom, and he saw a very beautiful girl. When he saw her, he just felt like he wanted to marry her. He straight away went to the father and asked the father's girl's hand in the marriage. The father said, what do you do, child? And the prince says that I'm the prince of the kingdom you are living in. The father says, but yeah, what do you do? Your father is the king, but what do you do? And he's like, I hunt, I go for trips, I go for shopping. I mean, he just told multiple things that he does. And the father asks, what are the skills that you have? What are the things that you have learned in these few years? The prince feels threatened by this. He feels little, his words are little lower on the lower side, and he tells that let me talk to my daughter. And daughter meets the prince, and she tells him the same thing, that why should I marry you? You're the prince. I know. I mean, within a few years, I might become the queen. But what do you do generally? And when she comes to know that he is a prince who spends lavishly, she tells him that I can't marry you until you impress me with something. And the prince now is taking this as a challenge. He felt rejected. He thought, how can somebody reject me? So the kingdom was known for its carpets, and the father of the girl, he was one of the best carpet makers in the kingdom. So the prince learns the art of making carpet from the father's subordinates, and he learns how to build carpet. Within a few months, he makes the best of carpet. And when he starts making carpet, he realizes that actually what was he doing with his time? Why was he not learning new things? So in the same time, he learns the art of ruling. He learns how to do sword fighting. He learns multiple other skills that a prince is required to know when he becomes a king. Then his carpet is ready. So he presents the carpet to the girl, and the girl loves it because he had made some intricate design. She tells him that I'm impressed and I would love to marry you. The prince and the princess, both of them, they get married, and within a few years, the prince, gains multiple skills. Like he learns the complete art of ruling a kingdom. He's loved by everyone. He becomes king eventually, and the queen and the king are living happily. But one day it so happens that the kingdom is raided by the neighboring kingdom, and the king is captured and is in the prison of that kingdom. The queen wants to know the location of the king so that she can rescue him. But then there is no other way. The king is kidnapped or is in prison, and queen can't know the location. Now the kingdom is saved. I mean, when the other king raided this kingdom, the other people from the kingdom were able to save the kingdom. So only it so happened only the king got captured. now queen is ruling the kingdom, and she is now waiting for some information on finding the king, but she finds none. Meanwhile, this king in the prison of another kingdom, he is just passing time and just understanding how to spend his time. Multiple leaves come into his prison, and he tries to just weave something out of those leaves. When he weaves something, the guard sees him and they love it. So they present those woven leaves to the king in that kingdom. That king loves it. He says, how do you do it, king? I have never learned this art. And the king says, my kingdom is known for carpets. So, so the king there, he thinks that I can't leave him, but I can utilize this prisoner to build something for me. He asked the king, will you be able to make a carpet for me? I'm making a ballroom. And the king accepts this as an opportunity. Meanwhile, queen in our own kingdom, she's trying to find out ways to know where the king is. One day, there is an invitation to the queen that there is one ballroom inauguration in one of the neighboring kingdom, and that queen is invited along with her family members. So before the queen comes, she thinks that let me send my men to the ballroom. I don't want to go there. The men from the kingdom, they go to the ballroom, and what do they see? They see the same. They see a carpet in the ballroom with location coordinates, and they all know that this is designed by the king because it had those initials and marks which the king or the kingdom is special for. Uh, the men who had come to the ballroom, they directly go to the kingdom and they notify the queen saying that we know where the king is. He is in the neighboring kingdom and we just saw his location coordinates, and we can go and we can do something about it. Queen then sends her men, and the king is released, and the king and queen lives happily ever after. So this is a story of how something that you learn very early in your childhood, or whatever you learn whenever at whatever point of your life, is so useful. And I think this one very beautiful and powerful example or a story is what you are going to witness next, presenting to you Miracle on Wheels.
Omkaram
बिन्दु संयुक्तं नित्यं ध्यायन्ति योगिनः कामदं मोक्षदं चैव ओंकाराय नमो नमः ओंकाराय नमो नमः ओंकाराय नमो नमः ओंकाराय नमो नमः नमो नमः नमो नमः नमो नमः नमो नमः भूमिमङ्गलम् उदकमङ्गलम् अग्निमङ्गलम् वायुमङ्गलम् गगनमङ्गलम् सूर्यमङ्गलम् चन्द्रमङ्गलम् जगन्मङ्गलम् जीवमङ्गलम् देहमङ्गलम् मनोमङ्गलम् आत्ममङ्गलम् सर्वमङ्गलं भवतु 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 सर्वमङ्गलं भवतु 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 सर्वमङ्गलं भवतु भवतु भवतु
What an amazing performance. Exactly, miracle on wheels. And now we have a next speaker who has infused her passion for art into her mission for life. Presenting to you Geetanjali Sarangan, an art-based therapy practitioner, educationist, social innovator, social entrepreneur, and founder of Snehadhara Foundation. She uses multiple art forms while working with children and adults with special needs. And before we have her on stage, I would like you to take a glance at Art for Inclusion, which is an IIS initiative focused on artists with disability and in making art more accessible. Watch out this video that will take you through a virtual gallery tour of our selected artists this year. To know more about this initiative, visit the IIS website and also join us at 5 p.m. on 21st November for IIS 2020 Celebration of Inclusion.
The second one is a portrait painting of Harry Potter by Nishchay Jain. A beautiful landscape painting by Arun Srinivasan. Following is a painting of Goddess Lakshmi by Sushila Kandasamy and an abstract painting by Ayush Bambani. Here's a beautiful painting by Jyoti K. Kumar. A Horse and Fast Movement by Sanjay Bandaba. A beautiful line work by artist Swaminathan M. And finally, a beautiful embrace in black and white by Nancy Mondley.
Everything that we know about ourselves and the world around us is through our senses. It's through what we see, what we hear, what we smell. And likewise, everything that we feel, we see, we smell, we don't feel, we don't tell ourselves, we don't recognize, has a role to play when it comes to well-being. So what is this well-being? What is wellness? Let's begin with demystifying that a little bit. Now there's so much information available on wellness. Are we talking about health? Are we talking about food? Are we talking about lifestyle? Are we talking about exercise? Are we talking about weight loss? All of this is true. But if we have to really simplify this for ourselves, we're talking about wellness and well-being being daily practice. Now, where do the arts and well-being come together? I feel they're synonymous because both talk of interconnectedness. Well-being is the integration of the body, the mind, the spirit on an everyday basis. How is it that I'm feeling and responding, I am engaging and interacting with the world inside and outside of me? The arts for me is a part of my everyday life. I see patterns, I see colors, I see shapes, I see people, I hear voices. So like the arts is all pervasive and the practice of the arts has enough merit in taking care of our psychological health, likewise, well-being is about coming back home to yourself. It is about the integration of the physical, the social, the emotional, the psychosocial self. Now, I'm going to tell you a story. This is a story of two acrobats and a student and a teacher. The teacher was a poor widower and their act would be to walk on the streets. The teacher would have a long cane and the student, her name was Mida. Mida would climb up on that pole, balance herself on the top as the teacher would walk on the ground holding support. Now this required a lot of attention. So the teacher told Mida one day, saying that let's do one thing, given the amount of concentration and focus this requires, let me take care of you and watch what you're doing while you pay full attention on what I'm doing. In that way, we would be able to bring all our concentration and awareness and ensure that we can continue to do what we do, make money, also we can avoid injuries and accidents. This young wise girl instead said to her teacher, no, let's do it differently. I will pay complete attention and focus on myself while you pay complete attention and focus on yourself. By doing this and taking care of each other and taking care of ourselves, we are actually taking care of each other. Now, this for me is a very powerful story when it comes to well-being. It is about the ability to practice taking care of oneself, self-compassion, because that automatically is going to open up into taking care and accepting another. The arts plays a very important role in this, and I say this because we have all experienced the arts in some form or the other. For some of us, it would be colors and hue that brings about a certain set of stillness. For some of us, it would be movement. For some of us, it would be music. There is an artist within each one of us. And the minute I meet the artist within myself, I am focusing on my well-being. I am focusing on centering myself to exactly how I'm responding to myself and the world around me. So what are some of the things that we can do, and what do we mean by working with the arts for well-being? Now I'm going to break this down into 4 parts and say, how can I work with the arts? And look at 4 types of resiliences. So let's begin with the most common, the physical resilience. My body, paying attention to my body, befriending my body, looking at it through very simple movement and awareness. Can I just pay some attention to even see as I walk, is it my heel leading my feet or is it my toe leading? I think beginning with physical resilience would mean focusing on body, sensations, memories, working with the body so that you don't have to be a dancer. And when I say movement, it could be play, it could be directive play, it could be just simple movements and exercises. The second that we're talking about is mental resilience. What does it do to invest in building my stamina to adapt to changes? How can I challenge myself with it? So can I get out of my comfort zone? What is it for me to actually meet the theatre artist in me who actually allows me to engage with myself and the world outside of me? So can I start looking at building my mental resilience and stamina each day? The third, emotional resilience. What is it for us to start looking at ourselves for who we are? Which takes us back to the question on who we are in the first place. But can I pay some attention to my thoughts, to my feelings, to what is this doing in the way I'm responding on an everyday basis? Can I actually cultivate and nurture positive thoughts and emotions each day? And the last of it is social resilience. What do we mean by social resilience? I have a role to play in this world, and the world has a role to play in my life. So what is it that I'm doing to engage with another? Can I begin with just the practice of gratitude to know that there is another in my life? All of these 4 are very interconnected because each one of them come together to bring us back to who and what we are. So here's where it is when it comes to talking about just how it is for us on an everyday basis. So wellness and well-being is about demystifying this idea to say I need to set aside a particular time of the day to be able to focus on this. Well-being is about practice. It is about a daily practice that I can put myself into to just bring myself back to myself. This is what well-being means, and I think this is what is my understanding of what well-being is. And here's an invitation to each one of us. What would it mean for us to practice some amount of stillness, pause, step back, look at things around us, look at colors, look at hues, listen to sounds around us. And for that, again, like I said, I do not have to be an artist. So the arts plays an absolutely important role in helping us make this integration, in helping us recognize the interconnectedness of things. I would like to end with a quote by Rabindranath Tagore, in which Tagore says that when I see the universe through my songs, I recognize it, and only then I know it. So can we see our own universe and world through these songs, through our narratives, and bring ourselves back to befriend that friend within each one of us? That would be our step at well-being, at wellness. Thank you.
Thank you, Geetanjali, for demystifying well-being and wellness. It indeed is very important to take care of ourselves, and arts can play a very important part in it. Now, I have winners for the quiz. Congratulations to all of you. The correct answer is Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. He was one of our speakers at IIS in 2013. The IIS team will reach out to all the winners and will be shipping you the IIS t-shirts. And it is not over. Now it is time for us to have another quiz, another time for all of you to be fast on the buzzer. This time we have 5 special IIS goodie kit which can be won by 5 lucky winners. Which these goodie kits includes some delicious cookies baked with love by our autistic friends at Spastic Society of India. These cookies were integral part of every physical India Inclusion Summit so far. And what do you need to do to win these? It is the same thing that you had done before. Send your responses by clicking on the link on India Inclusion Summit website under the event video or by scanning the QR code which is currently displayed on the screen. Do hurry up. Quiz will be open for only few minutes. And next, we have a special guest with a special message. She is a true inspiration for everyone, including me. She is the first person with disability to top Indian Civil Service exam, ERA Single IAS. But before we have her on stage, please have a look at this video.
What happened? Ayush, who did this to you? Ayush, say something. Come here, let's go.
Hi everyone, I'm Ira Singh. I'm an IAS officer of the batch of 2015, and I'm the first person with disability to top the Civil Services Examination of India. I wanted to become a civil servant right when I was 3 or 4, in 3rd or 4th class, but after that I moved to, that time I was in Meerut, a small town in UP. Well, not really all that small, but yeah, relative to Delhi. So I moved to Delhi somewhere in my teens, and in Delhi, I got used to the regular way that everybody thought. So went in, did my engineering, went in, did my MBA. But there was this one thing that I always had, which was that I wanted to be in a profession where I was working for the people, where I was serving the society, and where I was making a difference to someone else's life. And after my MBA, I worked for a company called Cadbury. I'm sure you all know about it. It's one of the nicest companies there possibly can be. I mean, we sell chocolates for a living, right? So we spread the sweetness around. So I was working there, but there was this point in my life when I was there, when I was working 20-hour days, and what I realized was that after working 20 hours, I hadn't really made a difference to anyone. So, I needed my day to have meant something. I needed my day to have meant something to someone else. I needed it to have made a difference to someone's life, made someone's life better. And that's when I thought about quitting my job and sitting for civil services. So, and that's precisely what I did. I quit my job. I sat for civil services. And as a person with disability, till now, I had never actually realized that there was something, that I couldn't do or that I shouldn't be allowed to do. But when I first gave my civil services exam, when I cleared for my first attempt, I was actually rejected basis my disability. So when you get into civil services, when you apply for this exam, there are basically 2 criteria. So one is, what is your disability? And second is, what are the abilities that you can do? And every service, every job that you are allowed to get through this exam, there are specific lists of abilities as well as disabilities. And in my case, my list of abilities matched almost all the services, but my list of disability did not match any of the services that I could get. I mean, I had gotten here to get either into the IAS or the IFS, but my rank wasn't good enough for those. But after them, in the list, I could not actually get any of the services basis my disability. Okay, so here is a scenario where everybody is agreeing that you are a person with disability. Everybody is agreeing that you also fulfill the criteria for the abilities required to do certain jobs. But because we don't approve of your disability, we don't like your disability, so we're not going to give you the job. And when the result came, the result also comes in 2-3 stages. So first is when you get your ranks, and the second, much later, is when you get what service you've got. So I was always present in the rank list. So when my result came out in 2010, I was present in the rank list, 2011 actually, the exam was in 10. So I was present in the rank list, but when the final service allocation came, my name was not there. And when I had started preparing, like I said, I sat for either, to get into either the IAS or the IFS. I realized, looking at my rank, that I was not going to get either of those. So I started preparing again, and I thought I'll give this exam again. And this is an exam that you can give 6 times now. Back then it was 4 times. So I gave this, so while I was preparing for my second attempt, I started getting a lot of phone calls from people. And, the question that they asked me was, do you know what happened to you? And, if you're not aware that something has happened to you, that's a very strange question to get asked. So I didn't know what had happened to me. And people were asking me, why did it happen to you? And I'm thinking, has something happened to me? So then I start checking, and I find out that, like I said, I did not get a service. And all those people who had called me were also people who had not gotten service allocations. And they were again people with disabilities. So then I started finding out as to what had happened. Why did this happen? And what I find out is that my list of disability is not matching any of the allowed list of disabilities. And this is the case for most of those other candidates as well. So, I had joined the service to make a difference, to change the world around me for better, to do something for others. So I thought this was my first opportunity. And I decided to, this is extremely unfair. If a person can do a job, there should be no reason he's not allowed to do it simply because he has something else wrong with him. So I decided to fight it. I decided that I'm here to do a good deed. Let this be my first good deed. My parents were extremely supportive. They thought it was extremely unfair, and they believe that one shouldn't accept things which are unfair. So I decided to fight this in court, and I went to CAT, which is where all matters like this are dealt with. And by the time my court case got filed, my result for the second time came, and there again I had been rejected to get a service despite clearing the exam, simply because no service was willing to accept my disability. So second time again same thing happens. Then I took a break for a year because this is one thing I tell people, that if you have an enemy and you want to destroy their lives, you should tell them to give civil services exam. It's the best way to get revenge, and that too silent, subtle revenge. So I didn't want to give this exam anymore, but I also realized that disability seats in the IAS, which is by the way the only service that I'm allowed to be in, was always 1, and it was given on rank basis. So unless I was rank 1, I could not guarantee a seat for myself, and obviously nobody thinks that they're going to get that. So I realized that this is possibly not going to happen till the lawsuit gets solved. So I didn't give an attempt after that, and I sat at home. I did a lot of things that I had always wanted to do in life, but never had the time to. So I learned a foreign language. I even taught the foreign language. I traveled quite a bit, and by then I got bored of all the fun I was having. Because if you've been someone who's been working all their lives, you sort of can't adjust to the idea of having fun too much. So I went back to books. I gave my third attempt, and again the same thing happens in my third attempt. I again get the same service, similar rank, and by the service allocation, the service that I would have gotten, and I was rejected a third time as well. And but by the time the third time's result came out, my court judgment came out, and I was the court agreed with my plea, and I was given a service in the IRS. Now what happens is that I'm very glad, that I've gotten the judgment. Now I can go join. So I waited for a letter from the department to tell me to come join, and that doesn't happen for 2-3 months. And I'm confused as to why are they waiting? What are they doing? Are they going to file an appeal? What are they thinking of? So what I do is I call up the department. I ask them that, what are you doing about this? And they said, oh, the judgment came. Okay, we didn't know. Please send us the papers. So I sent them all the documents. I sent them the judgment. I sent everything, and again I'm waiting. Again I'm waiting for 2-3 months, and by then the forms for a fourth time for the civil services exam came out, and my friends who'd also been preparing with me, they said that you're sitting at home doing nothing. You don't know if they're going to file an appeal. You don't know when they're going to give you something. Why don't you give this exam again? And like I said, it's the best way to destroy someone's life. So it's the best self-inflicted torture a person will do. And it's very subtle. It kind of kills you mentally, it kills you emotionally, it kills you financially, and it kills you physically as well. So it's a holistic torture that you do to yourself. So, I thought, no, I'm not going to do this. But then I was completely jobless, and I didn't know what else to do. So I gave the exam the fourth time. I gave my prelims. And till the last day of the prelims, I was hoping I'll get a letter to join, and so that I could, not give that exam. Didn't happen. Went and gave the exam, got in. Then it was time for the mains exam. This exam is, by the way, in 3 stages. So it was time for the mains exam, and I'm again praying that they're going to tell me come join. But I get a letter saying that you have to come give the join the day after the mains exam. So I have no more excuses. I sit for my mains. And the day I sit for my mains, the day the exams end, I throw my books away. I delete everything. I basically erase this exam out of my life, because by now I'm extremely tired and done with all the torture I've done to myself. And I go and join my IRS service, and I'm very happily studying there. But this time, in my fourth attempt, when the results came out, I had actually gotten rank 1 in the exam, and I'm now an IAS officer. And I work on all of those issues that I always wanted to work. I'm very glad and thankful for this opportunity that I've got, and it's been wonderful till now.
Before you leave, Ira, I have a question for you. As a true inspirational icon, what is the message for people with disabilities in our country?
I think people with disability need to stop defining themselves by their disabilities. Start defining yourself by your abilities, by your talents. Like I say, the world sees you the way you see yourself. So if you see your disabilities, the world will see your disabilities. Everyone in this world has some disability. And everybody has some problem. It may be something that you can see, or it may be something that you can't see. But everybody has something wrong. There is nothing called normal or standard. So, see yourself for your abilities, see the talents that you have. If you don't see them, the world will not see them. So, focus on your abilities. Everybody has disabilities. Learn to accept them. They are just a part of you. They are not you. You are a lot more than, all those things that are wrong with you. You are actually about the things that are right with you. Nurture your abilities, nurture your talents. And if you start believing in yourself, if you start seeing your abilities, that's what the world will see.
Thank you, Ira. All the best for being a true champion for change. Meanwhile, we have the result of our last quiz. The answer to the question is all of the above. Inklu is the mascot of IIS 2020, and you can call him Inklu Bhaiya, Inklu Mon, Inklu Babu, Inklu Singh, Inklu Anna, or whatever you want to call him with love. I'm sure this was a tricky one. Congratulations to all the winners. The IIS team will reach out to you and send you your IIS goodie bag with those delicious cookies. Inklu, the mascot of IIS, is available on both Google Play Store and Apple App Store as virtual pop-up. You can take a picture with him and do not forget to upload them on your social media accounts. And with this now, it is time for me to introduce our last speaker. She is an entrepreneur, Apple veteran, Google alum, Stanford instructor, leadership coach, neuroscience geek, and she is also the author of Amazon bestseller, Happiness Hack. Ellen Petri-Lianse on how to do the happiness hack.
When I was a little girl, growing up in what is now Silicon Valley, many of my friends spoke Spanish. And little by little, I began to learn Spanish too. Simple words that kids would use on a playground, like, ¿Tienes una mascota? Do you have a pet? ¿Dónde está tu casa? Where's your house? Or, ¿Quieres jugar? Would you like to play? I loved my playground Spanish. And as I grew up, I learned more and more of the language. And when I went to school and studied Spanish, I felt confident. I felt like I could speak Spanish well. Yet, in 1981, when I got a job with a little company called Apple Computer, I told them I spoke Spanish. And so my work took me to places around the Spanish-speaking world. Places like Mexico, Venezuela, Colombia, and Peru. And I learned very quickly in those places that the Spanish I spoke with my friends and in my classroom didn't really do the job when it came to doing business. I had trouble understanding when people started talking to me as if they thought I understood. So I learned a word that was very important and that helped me so much. And here is that word, despacito. Despacito, por favor, I'd say. It was my way of asking, please, go slowly. And people did. And when they went slowly, something wonderful happened. They began to choose their words more carefully. They made eye contact. They stopped and paused and asked me if I understood. And I noticed something else. They smiled more. Now, of course, as I continued to practice, my Spanish got better. Yet I still found there was some magic in despacito. When I asked people to slow down, I enjoyed the conversations more. They were sweeter, they were slower, they were more interesting, and they were more connected. Later, as technology began to fill the world and shape our busy lives, I noticed that things became less despacito. We began to hurry more. We began to worry more. We began to think we had to do more and have longer and longer checklists to get ourselves through the day. I became part of that hurry and that worry as my life got faster and more demanding. Now, one thing I know is that hurry and worry does not equate to happiness. And as I began to study the brain, I began to see how this hurry and worry actually took away from our sense of happiness. It made us less connected. It made us less focused, less present. And it made our emotions more stressed and more confused. And I began to miss the world of Despacito. This touched me so much that I actually wrote a book about the brain and its place in happiness. And so much of that book took me back to that simple lesson of Despacito, where people took time to listen, took time to pay attention that they were being understood, did simple things like make eye contact, connect, and smile. When I was invited to spend time with you today, the people of the IIS community, I began to research the things that this community believes in, does, and creates together. And I was taken back to a feeling that I hadn't had in many years. I thought about someone who's been one of my heroes for a very long time, Temple Grandin, an autism advocate and a spokesperson for animal rights. As an ambassador for the feelings and emotions of animals, Temple taught us to slow down and pay attention to what animals were going through, even as they prepared for the meat and other industries, and to connect with them in ways that actually changed an entire industry. She listened, she paid attention, she connected in ways the fast-moving, hurry and worry world seldom does. I thought about the art of Frida Kahlo, an amazing artist from Mexico, whose childhood bout of polio left her walking with a limp and sometimes disabled throughout her life, and how the slowness of her interior landscape allowed her to share beautiful images of imagination with the world. I learned about a teacher, Noelia Garea, one of the first teachers in the world with Down syndrome, and the love, kindness, and slowness she shared with the preschool teachers she taught. I thought about a dancer named Alice Shepherd, whose movement from within her wheelchair allows her to create a sort of beauty that we seldom see. Of Ludwig van Beethoven, who composed his most powerful music long after he was able to hear it. And I began to think that the slowness, the observation, the connection that takes place in this IIS world, this world of inclusion, brought more hope and more happiness and more of the beauty of true Despacito connection to the world. I thought of you, the members of this community, who I see as my host today, of your caretakers, your families, your teachers. And I thought that there was something beautiful in the way you connected and cared that all of us ordinary people in the world could learn from. And I felt happy that I was able to gain that from you. But then something wonderful happened. As I was learning more about this community, I stumbled by very good luck across the work of a young man whose name is Julio Serputu Sia. Julio lives in Argentina. Julio has Down syndrome, and his gift for playing guitar is so beautiful, I wanted to share it with you today. And you'll never guess what the song he plays is called. Despacito. As I listened to Julio, I felt he embodied everything I spoke about in my book. Persistence, the love of beauty, taking joy in our actions, connecting with others in ways where we share the gifts we have inside with the world in ways that make all of us better. Julio reminded me of the gift of Despacito, not only through his music, but through everything I imagined. It took him, his family, his caretakers, and all who loved him to share together. And I felt so grateful for the gift of paying more attention, of listening, of being patient, of choosing words and actions carefully to make sure we shared what was in us and we were understood. Julio, and all I've learned about you reminds me to take a deep breath and wait until others are ready before showing up with my hurry or my worry, so I can make a more worthy offering to the world. Now, all of this Despacito, it turns out, is better for us and better for our brains, because no matter how ordinary or how unique our brains are, we are better when we go Despacito. It's better for us as humans, as individuals, and on a societal scale. And the invitation I offer with you is to cherish the beauty of that Despacito and set it as an example to others. In this hurried and worried world, we can all learn from it. The places where I find happiness are so often the places of Despacito. The world moves too fast, and sometimes it seems to get away from us. Today, you have helped me remember and connect with the importance of slowing down and appreciating and truly caring for the world and the people around us. I find that muy linda, very lovely. And for that, I say thank you.
Thank you, Alan. Despacito, indeed a simple and powerful happiness hack. And now we need you to share something more for our audience. And here is my question. Ellen, what does inclusion mean to you?
Inclusion means belonging, being part of something bigger. And we are all part of this. In the same way that a puzzle might only be complete when all of the pieces fit together, this world, this thing we are building, is only complete when all of us fit together and everyone is included.
Thank you, Ellen. And we are all in this together. With this great message from you, the first day and the first event of India Inclusion Summit 2020 is coming to an end. Thank you all for tuning in. And please do not forget to tune back in for the rest of IIS 2020. IIS Youth at 11 a.m. on 21st November, celebrating inclusion at 5 p.m. on 21st November, and Ability Unlimited at 5 p.m. on 28th November. I am Mansi Joshi, signing off on behalf of the team India Inclusion Summit. Let us end the day by paying tribute to our nation by playing the national anthem on its journey to be a completely inclusive place.
जन गण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंधु गुजरात मराठा द्राविड़ उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्छल जलधि तरंगा
तव शुभ नामे जागे
तव शुभ आशीष मागे गाहे तव जय गाथा